Hi, everyone. We are in chapter 3, moving chapter 3 and 4 of Odysseus. And this is where Odysseus, he is in a grove and he's going to try to find his way to the princess's palace to help him get home. As Odysseus stepped out of the grove, a strange mist covered his body. No one seemed to notice him as he made his way through the streets. Has Athena made me invisible? He wondered. Suddenly, a small girl stepped in front of Odysseus. The child stared up at him with bright gray eyes. Odysseus wondered if the girl might be Athena in disguise. Can you tell me the way to the palace of the king? He asked her. I will show you, said the child. Follow me and speak to no one. Odysseus followed the girl through the streets. When they drew near the palace, she said simply, Go inside and look for the queen. And then she disappeared, leaving Odysseus alone at the palace gates. Odysseus entered the gates and passed through an orchard of trees laden with luscious figs, pears, and apples. He walked through a rich vineyard and a bountiful flower garden. When he entered the halls of the palace, he gasped in wonder. The palace shone with a splendor like that of the sun and moon. Golden statues of boys holding fiery torches lit the halls. In the gleaming light, handmaidens worked their looms. Their fingers fluttered like aspen leaves in the wind as they wove their beautiful linen. No one seemed to notice Odysseus as he walked through the palace. Hidden by Athena's cloak of mist, he slipped silently into the great hall. As Odysseus looked about for the queen, he saw a group of nobles sitting near an open fire. Nearby sat the king and a woman spinning wool. Odysseus moved quickly toward the Nausicaa's mother. As he knelt in the ashes before the hearth, he felt the mist suddenly evaporate, and he was visible again. Some in the hall cried out in alarm when they saw the strange, haggard man. But Odysseus spoke quickly and passionately to the queen. I humbly beg you to have pity on me, he said. I have come here from beyond the sea. Help me find my way back to my home country, to my wife and my son. Everyone in the great hall stared in shock at Odysseus as he knelt before the queen. Finally, an old man broke the silence. We must honor our most ancient tradition, he said. Almighty Zeus tells us never to deny a stranger who asks for our protection. Give this wretched man a chair. Offer him wine and supper. King Alcinous helped Odysseus to a chair. A servant brought a silver basin and washed Odysseus's hands. Others brought him bread and wine and meat. The king and queen and all their guests raised their cups in the air. To Zeus, protector of worthy strangers, said the king. Then he looked at Odysseus. Perhaps you are one of the immortals yourself, come down to earth to test our hospitality. Odysseus shook his head. Pray, sir, do not mistake me for a god. In truth, I am the most wretched of men. If only you knew what misery I have suffered. King Alcinous seemed moved by Odysseus' humble words. He turned to his guests. Go safely to your homes now. Tomorrow we will honor this traveler with a feast. When all the guests had taken their leave and Odysseus was left alone with the king and queen, the queen spoke gently to him. I see that you do not wear your own clothes, my friend, she said, for those are the garments my daughter took to the washing pools this morning. You say that you have come from beyond the sea. In truth, who are you? Where is your home? Odysseus did not want to reveal his true identity, so he told them only of leaving the island of Calypso and escaping the terrible storm. He told them about their daughter's kindness toward him. Satisfied with his story, the queen ordered her servants to prepare a room for Odysseus. He was soon led to his bed, where he lay down on soft purple blankets. As soon as the torches were put out, he fell into a deep, restful sleep. The next morning, palace servants set about preparing a great feast. They roasted sheep, boars, and oxen. A messenger was sent to summon the finest singer in the land, a blind minstrel. As King Alcinous's servants made preparations for the feast, Athena walked through the streets of the city. Disguised as the king's herald, she called to every citizen, "Come, lords and princess, come and hear the story of the stranger who has arrived at the palace of the king." A great crowd gathered at the palace for the feast. When King Alcinous brought Odysseus before his people, the crowd gasped. Odysseus could see the great wonder in their faces. Though he was still weary from his ordeal at sea, he suspected that Athena had made him look tall and strong and given him an air of dignity. As the feast began, the blind singer sat down by a pillar and cradled his harp in his arms. Soon the spirit moved him, and he began singing about famous warriors who had died in battle. He sang about the heroes of the Trojan War, about brave Achilles and King Agamemnon. As the singer sang, Odysseus wept for his lost friends. He hid his face behind his robe so none could see his tears. He did not want them to guess who he really was. But later, after sports and games, Odysseus felt merry and confident. He called out to the singer, "Sing about the wooden horse that helped the Greeks win the war. If you tell the true story of the fall of Troy, I will praise your storytelling the whole world over." The singer began singing about a Greek king named Odysseus. He sang about how Odysseus had ordered the making of a giant wooden horse and how he himself hid inside the horse with his finest warriors. He sang about how the Trojans had brought the horse inside the walls of Troy, and how the Greeks, led by Odysseus, had crept out at nightfall and laid siege to the city, and thus won the war. As the minstrel sang, Odysseus began to weep again. This time he could not hide his grief. He wept uncontrollably. King Alcinous ordered the singer to silence his harp. "Our guest has wept twice today when you sang about the Trojan War," he said. "I imagine your songs have stirred his memory." Then the king turned to Odysseus. "Sir, do not try to hide what you feel or who you are any longer," he said. "Tell us your name. Tell us about your travels, what you have seen. Did you see the fall of Troy? Did your friends perish in the battle? I ask you to tell us your story." And we will continue with chapter 5 and 6 later time. So remember, this is a good time to do some art, you guys, and my dog is asleep. It's a peaceful day.